Fringe is here, every voice we wanna hear. Stages set, the lights are bright, bring your art into the night. KC's heart, it beats so loud, every artist in the crowd. Voices rise and colors blend, create a world that won't end. Welcome to Fringe, the place is calling. Lights are flashing, hearts are falling. Join the wave, come feel the motion. Dive into this Fringe devotion. Stories told and laughter shared, every stage shows how we care. Dreamers rise and new worlds make, in this Fringe there's no mistake. Welcome to Fringe.
Hi everybody, welcome to our Fringe wrap-up show. So by now you've heard all the Fringe shows, and you've heard all the Fringe adjacent shows that we were able to do on the side. So again, shout out to everyone who helped out with that, especially Heather. But first, one of the other shows in Fringe this past year is called FringeProv. The idea it was that they put all the shows that were in Fringe this year into a hat, and each of their shows, they would pull out of hats at random one of the shows, and they would do an improv based on that show. Well, I was informed that one of the shows that was selected was our show. So thank you to Bryan Colley, the producer, who sent me the file and gave me permission to use it here on the podcast. So Bryan is a KC Fringe veteran. He often works with Tara Varney, who also participated in this. You will hear both of their voices in the FringeProv clip. Bryan is the one that's introducing our podcast to be improved upon, and Tara is the critic. You'll hear near the end of the clip, and I'm going to cut it and interject wherever I can, because I do have some thoughts about it. I thought it was really damn funny, but still, I got to respond to some of this. So, without further ado, I bring you this podcast is uncalled for at FringeProv.
What did he choose? He chose This Podcast is Uncalled For.
Yeah.
By Mike Czerniewski. This Podcast is Uncalled For is a podcast hosted and produced by Mike Czerniewski. This podcast will be an interview-based podcast that explores different aspects of the host's life so far and introduces the audience to some very interesting people. For our program, we'll be recording our interviews in front of a live audience. Each show will be a different interview, and no two shows will be the same, just like FringeProv. All right.
Okay, so right off the bat, nothing offensive or anything, just reading verbatim what's in the Fringe program, which, yes, I did write that. And it is pretty much the mission of the podcast, and has been from day one, everything. Because let's be honest, how many people would actually listen if I get the inartful answer? It's about whatever the fuck I want to talk about and whoever I want to talk about it with. So it's a little more artful to say it's life exploration and interviewing interesting people, which it is that too. So, but I do need to correct you, Brian. Zernewski is the most common mispronunciation I have encountered of my surname. My name's pronounced Czernewski. CZ in Polish. This is the extent of my knowledge of the Polish language, by the way. CZ produces a CH sound, like in chair. And W, you should know this if you've studied German at any point. W produces a V sound. So we don't say Auf Wiedersehen, we say Auf Wiedersehen in German. So same principle there. It's Czernewski. So, well, now you know. So let's continue with this program, see how close they came to capturing the essence of what we talked about.
You guys pre-planning?
Yeah. They were checking their script.
I got the microphone ready.
Great. Are you ready for my guest?
Yeah, you should go get your guest.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Mike Zaguski. This podcast is uncalled for. I need someone to come up so I can talk to them about my life. Yes, you sir.
Time out. So, yeah, this guy did a worse job than Brian did on getting my name. I don't say my last name with G's and everything. So, yeah, nice try. And it's not just talking to random strangers about my life. If you are new to the podcast, let me explain how this works. I pick my guests. Historically, I picked my guests among my friends, and we talk about things that we have in common. In fact, I intentionally pick guests based on things that we have in common. Like, that's why you hear a lot of filmmakers and actors and chess people and Mission West grads, because I have things in common with those people. All right, and they are my friends. So that's how guest selection has historically happened on this podcast. Now of course, lately we've branched out a little bit, bringing in experts and whatnot. In fact, co-hosts have brought people in. So Braden brought in his buddies, and of course Heather brought guests to the Fringe program as well. And I do appreciate that. But that's how it. There's no random talking to strangers, like he is trying to portray it as. No, it is very intentionally selected who appears on the podcast. Anyway, let's continue.
These are my producers, Brentlin
Hi,
and Amanda. Hey.
You seem interesting.
This
Sure.
is gonna be the best episode ever.
It's gonna be the best. I can feel it.
A couple parameters though. Make him cry. I really want something emotional.
No promises.
Okay.
Wait, are we live?
Yes.
We're
Okay,
streaming
okay.
right now.
Right now.
What's up, chat? How's it going? Welcome back to this podcast is uncalled for. I'm here with my guest, Dave. Dave. Absolute pleasure to meet you, Dave. I also want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Big Grundle's Stinky Little Diapers.
Teleprompter over here.
These diapers come pre-stanked. That way, when all your babies smell good, they won't. All right.
Sponsors, okay? Let's talk about sponsors. We don't have any sponsors. Everything to this moment has come directly out of my pocket. But if you want to do a sponsorship, okay. Kansas State Chess Club and DoorDash are primary sponsors. Not because I have any sponsorship deals with them or anything, but it's because I fucking work for them. Alright? So, I have tried to get the word out about sponsorships. We just do not have the downloads to justify sponsorships at this point. There are ways that you can help make that happen, like telling your friends about the podcast and listening to the podcast yourself. All right. We are hosted on Libsyn. Libsyn does have the ability to give you ads and all that, ad placement and everything. The problem is you need, so we're coming in with a little over 20,000 downloads for the entire podcast. They want that per episode to justify ads. So let's get to it. So that's one way you can help. Just start listening to the podcast, and maybe the sponsors will come. So right now we just don't have the numbers to justify sponsorships. I would love to have sponsors, to be completely honest with you. They're just not there. So let's continue.
Dave, I don't know if you've heard, I am separated from my child. My wife took him from me, and I have not seen him in 10 years. Isn't that very sad? What aspect of your life do you think should tell me about me?
I mean, like, I lost my dog once. That was pretty sad.
You calling my kid a dog?
Hey, I'm so sorry. People are mad on Facebook Live.
Chat, I'm sorry.
People
Should
love
you-
it on Twitter though. So I
Did
don't
you?
know.
Okay. Like people, I just don't know if our sponsor was controversial. Like if you want to maybe address like
People
the
love
smell.
sticky diapers.
Okay,
We
they
know
do.
this.
Okay, just as long as you know.
Dave, tell me about your dog.
Well, he's like a little corgi mix, so he's like little short and real fat, and real lovable.
That's just like my kid. He's also real short and real fat. He could be different now, though. I haven't seen him in 10 years. Isn't that crazy?
How old was he when he got taken?
19.
Okay, yeah. Probably not that much different.
Yeah, I agree.
Your wife is here, and she's really angry.
Okay, now we've reached the portion of the program that has me a little upset. Clearly, the actor has never listened to the podcast. So, if you are the actor who played me in this sketch, please not only listen to the podcast, but specifically listen to our Saint Archuleta's Day special. Oh boy. But before I get more into that, that's not how the podcast works. That's not how the podcast works at all. Again, I bring in guests who know something about something I want to talk about, and we talk about it. Yes, I'm going to inject my own experience into it if necessary, but for the most part, it's just a conversation. If it's a subject I know a little something about, I have thoughts about, that's the thoughts episodes for you. We'll do discussions with the co-hosts and everything, but really nothing like what's being portrayed here. And in terms of the actor should listen to the St. Archuleta's Day special. I've never been married, and I don't have kids. I certainly don't have a 29-year-old kid. I would have had been 17 at the at the time of his conception. But the fact of it is, I'm still a virgin. I know, 45 years old, still have never been laid. All right, and I addressed this in Bryan's three-peats, which you can now hear in our Fringe 2024 program, because I do address it. It's kind of hard to have kids when almost every woman that you've dated dumps you 1 or 2 dates in. All right, I'm sorry, but that is true. Okay, probably the woman I've dated the most is friend of the podcast, Caroline, and even then, it's mostly been platonic. There is a friend of the podcast who did offer to fuck me. It never happened. So never been married and don't have kids. If you're going to make fun of me, at least get that part right. All right. I am an uncle, but biologically speaking, uncles have nothing to do with it. All right, except for being the sibling of one of the two parents. That's the extent of it, unfortunately. So yeah, listen to the St. Anne Marshall episode. We continue.
Okay,
Yeah, Dave, this is huge for us.
now this is a story.
So, honey,
Our son just called us.
where is he?
He's in jail.
What?
He's in jail.
Dave, what the hell? My kid's in jail.
He needs you, but you're too busy with your podcast.
Well, I had to make a living.
I'm sorry,
I raised our son!
Dave, I'm gonna need $5,000.
Poopy diapers is gonna pull out if you leave, by the way.
That's fine. I have my own.
Screw the poopy diapers.
I love
Dave was awesome. Great job, Dave.
I completely forgot to ask if anyone had seen this show before. Will anyone admit to having seen this show, knowing the consequences of admitting such a thing? Yeah, I don't think so. Well, let's see what our critic has to think of this podcast is uncalled for.
Well, it reminded me, it was a little Pinteresque, as in the search for identity and how our identities and roles in life are constantly shifting, and with the power plays and status of ourselves and our families and those others around us. Sad, really, but it's so true. Let's give it up for Dave!
Dave, I noticed your artist button. What show are you in at Fringe?
I'm in Romantic Fools at the Arts Asylum.
Nice!
And I definitely don't know the guy who was playing Mike. Definitely never met him before.
We haven't done that show yet, so you might get lucky tonight. How many points would you like to give?
Oh, Pinter, a dozen.
Dozen?
Pinter's dozen.
What is a Pinter's dozen? Is that less?
Pinter's dozen is actually 30.
Okay, so I definitely think Tara was spot on in her critique at the end there. Yeah, that bit was funny. Yeah, your son is in jail. Yeah, 29-year-old son who never existed is in jail. So yeah. Aside from that, that's the big thing that pisses me off about that. That as portrayed as having a wife and a 29-year-old son. Again, never been married and have no kids. So it would behoove this particular actor to see, to at least listen to that episode in particular, the Archelaus episode. And kudos to the brave volunteer who said, I never met the guy that played Mike. So I never met him either, but I'm giving him a piece of my mind right now. It would have helped to have audience members who actually went to the show.
Down the highway in the sea of burned out cars. The seats just blackened skeletons, empty eyes and screaming jaws. Well, the planet hung suspended in the sky, a violent red. And in the stillness there I heard the chorus of the dead.
So that music you just heard is called We've Been Here Before by Rozekol, Rozekol. It's licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 International License. You can find this music at freemusicarchive.org. And the reason I mention that is because it is one of the songs that we played in our intro for the podcast live at KC Fringe 2024. So first thing I need to talk about is the circumstances surrounding the festival this year. The big one, of course, was being without the car. You may have heard me talk about it during our tech rehearsal episode, but the car started doing the taking too damn long to start. We ultimately found that it was a fault of the engine control module, which is not a cheap part to replace at all. Luckily, my mechanic was able to give me a good deal, and we were able to, after 2 weeks, it got done. Only for the replacement part to fail a week later. To put it in even more context, it's been hot this summer, okay? Once again, climate change is real. Alright, we have to address this shit. And now it's affecting very important pieces of automobile equipment. at the time of recording this, has been back in this shop for over a month now, as they search for a replacement parts, which is a lot harder to come by because of something called planned obsolescence that, frankly, has been affecting me quite a bit lately, including in regards to getting this podcast done. Because I had to switch machines. You know, the machine I had been recording on decided it didn't want to work anymore. So I got a new one. Credit to Mo for getting me in touch with this machine. But now it doesn't want to run my old Adobe software. So I have yet to look for a good solution for that. I have yet to talk with a tech person about that. That's on my to-do list. For now, we're just using GarageBand, and it's working pretty well. It's got its issues, but no, I can live with it. And once again, credit to my dad for letting me use his car. I wasn't telling him I was doing KC Fringe. I did tell him I was volunteering at KC Fringe. I didn't tell him I was doing the actual show at Fringe. But yeah, here we are. The venue itself, Independence Boulevard Christian Church. Well, the first part should tell you exactly where it is. It's on Independence Boulevard. Not exactly the best part of town. However, the festival made sure that everyone that parked there, gated parking lot at least, everyone that parked there had a secure parking experience, to the point that they had hired private security to keep an eye on everything. We were literally in the church basement. So you go down a couple of flights of stairs from the back into the hall area. Go into basically the kitchen area is a corridor connecting the stairs to where we were. That's where the volunteers were set up, ticketing and everything. They had a snack counter set up, everything. They're serving nachos, which greatly appreciates. You know, I want to see more Fringe venues offering food like this and drink. So they had water, non-alcoholic drinks in a can, probably some beer, but I digress. But yeah, you get snacks if you want to, and I'm grateful for that. Because of its location, I want to be there. At least want to get there when there's still light. Kind of hard to do when you have a show starting at 10 in the evening, like we did the first show. Maybe venue had something to do with it. Maybe we didn't do a good job marketing everything, but we could have done better. All right. I'm happy with what we did wind up with, but yeah, we could have done better. Shout out to all the acts that we shared the venue with. Chris, you've heard his episode by now. We shared the venue with him. I talked with Melanie about doing the podcast. I've yet to hear back from her, but Melanie, the offer still stands. If you're listening, I'd love to have you and your crew on at some points. We'd probably have to do it over Zoom, and that's perfectly all right. But yeah, overall, I think we had some pretty good shows in there, and I do want to give credit to the Best of Fringe for our venue. That's Wendy and her show, which was it was an interesting nod to feminism and women's rights, and had a very obnoxious male character. I can't do the whistle, but fictional character. Whenever they bring up a fictional character like, say, Catherine Janeway. And of course, shout out to Hannah, our tech. She did a magnificent job. But we had pretty simple tech as is. We do have to do a better job with projecting with some of our guests, as was explained to me after our last show. So, and no, we did not make our money back. So, but that's beside the point. The experience itself was, I think it was worth it. That's the one time. I don't know if we'll do it again next year, but I can't say, as far as I'm concerned, no, I had a good time doing it, and I hope the guests and Heather had a good time. That's one I could not have done without Heather's help. She got half the guests rounded up. Everything. I was responsible for bringing George and Bryan on. In fact, they asked to come back on, and I definitely obliged. Once a friend of the podcast, always a friend of the podcast, and you're always welcome back. So I'm glad they decided to come back and everything. Now, attendance-wise, our first night's, oddly enough, was probably the best attended night. That was the 10:30 start. And shout out to Matthew Stevens, past IFC president, for showing up. You actually hear him in the episode. He asked about, Megan, are you doing any of that aerial stuff at Union Station? Is any of that part of the Fringe? Turns out no. But, so, good question. Friend of the podcast, Jessica Field, was at Bryan's show, night 2. Thank you, Jessica, for showing up. And it was after that show that she gave us the invites to do Prepper. I wound up recording my lines for that. And, we'll see what happens there. And Mary Wilkins, gotta give a shout out to Mary. She showed up for the last night of Fringe as well. So that was pretty cool. We didn't have much of an audience for the other 2 shows. In fact, we had pretty much no audience for the 3rd show with Mike and Terrence, who showed up late. He had a good reason. He drove through the traffic on 69. That's not to talk to me about what's going on in 69, but that's what happened. I think Heather did a great job handling the interviews as she did, and she's been just a great asset to the podcast, and I look forward to working with her even more as we continue on. Now, we did get a couple of other Fringe acts to agree to do the podcast. Of course, you've already heard their episodes, but there's some more that we can get on to, like Brother John, institution of KC Fringe, has to come on, and we will get him on. I promise you that. So we will get Brother John on. Melanie, I talked about. We could get her on again. Just get back to me. And a couple of others. I'm not going to name names, but a couple of others that could come on. So, because I was using my dad's car, I did not feel comfortable doing any of the after party stuff, and that's probably for the better. And I'll explain why in just a little bit. Now, that's the performer side of things. No. I was also a volunteer and went to a few shows myself. So as a volunteer, I did a couple nights volunteering as a house usher and all. One night was at the KC Oasis. So this is an interesting thing. It's a church building, but it's a church organization. I would learn for people who aren't necessarily religious, which is an interesting concept in and of itself. Yeah, I don't believe in God, but let's go to church anyway. Just within walking distance of KU Med, which is good because parking was hard to find around there. Very nice little setup. And I learned from talking to those people that they do volunteer work at Independence Boulevard Christian Church. So that's really neat. They don't profess to be Christian, but they're acting Christian, feeding the homeless once or twice a week. So that's awesome. That's very Christ-like, too, by the way. And their big consumables shtick was barbecue pork sliders. So they did a few shows there, including Brother John's show was there this year, as well as a friend of the podcast, Jamie Morrow. She had her class, because she started doing acting classes lately, and turned her acting classes into a full-blown production. And I just happened to be ushering, her group was performing, so that was pretty cool. All that. And my second night of volunteering was at the Bird Comedy Theater, which also held Fringe 411. Yep, the heart of Fringe operations while the festival was going on. So that was pretty cool, and I did watch a few shows. So for the show watching, I got to go back to the unofficial first weekend, because they do have a weekend before the rest of the festival just for film programs. And credit to Tim Harvey for getting that put together. Tim, another former IFC president, gathered all the films and put the film program together. I got a chance to see the Blood program by Richie Wolf. Richie, we still need to get you on the podcast. So the program included the aforementioned Blood. This is the little short film that Sam Toddy, friend of the podcast, did as a vampire, going to a church, actually expecting the blood of Christ to be actual blood as opposed to wine. And I'm in that film as well as a member of the congregation. The little bit I did not survive the final draft, and that's fine. That's fine, but the majority of the rest of that program was skateboarding videos, and that kind of reminded me, oh yeah, Richie's really into skateboarding. So, well, there you go. And so that was a fun experience. And then I went to two shows, two of the best ofs. So one of the best ofs was Brother John. Got to see his program. And the other was Danielle Ate the Sandwich. So Danielle, I met during the Fringe previews. Not at the actual Fringe previews, but before that at the Inglewood Arts Center, where we did a little bit for our shows to get them promoted, everything. Very nice lady and all, and very talented. She did Her show was called The Greatest Garage Sale Ever. She played a number of different characters, and there's a lot of guitar and ukulele and singing, and just had a good time with it. Very nice lady. I find out she's based here in KC, and I've also invited her to do the podcast if she wants. So that invite still stands. And then the actual Fringe after party, which I did not stay long, to be honest with you. If you want to know anything about me and parties, is that we do not get along. If you put me in a group, odds are I'm the one that's going to be ignored. I'll just stand there hearing conversations back and forth, or at least trying to, but there's just too much noise, everything, and never being asked to participate. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? That type of thing. So I didn't stay too long, and yeah. That is pretty much the sum of my KC Fringe experience for 2024. I will definitely volunteer again. But as far as doing the podcast again, to be determined. We may take a year off and try again in 26. That said, I like the idea of doing the podcast in front of a live audience, and would like to do it a little more regularly. But I am not opposed to doing it once every year, 5 times during a festival. Then again, is the Fringe Festival a good venue for recording podcasts in front of a live audience? These are questions I'll consider over the coming months. Whether or not we choose to do this again in 25, we'll see. 26, we'll see. Alright. But it was an absolute thrill and an honor to actually be able to participate this year. Shout out to Audrey for putting it all together. Shout out to Brandon, the volunteer coordinator, without whom none of this really works. And shout out to everyone that went to KC Fringe, who participated as a volunteer, as a performer. You guys are awesome, and I'm glad to be associated with KC Fringe. So, all that said, let's go ahead and call it, and we'll talk soon.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music for our KC Fringe program is Welcome to Fringe, courtesy of Suno.com. Outro music for our KC Fringe program is Fantasia by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you are in the United States or Canada, you can call us at 816-832-5160. Leave your message or question for us, and if we like it, we will play it on the podcast. Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.